through a downturn, so I'm ready for this, ready for anything that they could throw at us. So, but yeah, it's I had quite a bit of success, sold 500 plus homes a year consistently every year for years. And one of the things that makes this presentation really unique is I had a rare opportunity, call it a blessing or a curse, to be in Lawton, Oklahoma, where I'm from. And I had a RE/MAX team that sold 700 homes a year when I was selling 500 homes a year. When I was selling 200, they were selling 300. When I was selling 100, they were selling 200. So I've always had this competitor that notorious for dropping their commission to 4% when they knew they were competing against me. They were just ruthless. And so it taught me a whole lot about how to win on the listing appointment, and really have a process that puts you in a position to win, and really in a position where you don't have to sell to win the listing. And so that's kind of what we're going to be talking through is the steps to this process. And here's what we're going to cover. We're going to cover how to win 100% of the listing appointments you go on, how to get 98% of sellers to list at your price, how to crush the top agents in your market on any appointment with one simple thing we're going to teach you today, and how to get any seller you want to pay your commission and laugh discounters out the door. So following this process does all of that, and really how to attract, not chase. So you don't have to hard sell on the listing appointment. You should never have to sell yourself to win the listing. I'll show you how to do this. So again, kind of going over my brief introduction. I always jokingly tell people I was in the top 25 of my class, and there was only 36 of us where I went to school, so it's not that big of an accomplishment. But I was fortunate enough to figure it out. Got into real estate, figured it out, and it took a long time. I spent a lot of money, I bought everything. If you sold books, tapes, training, CDs, whatever, I bought it. And ultimately figured that out and had quite a bit of success, and then had about 14% market share. Again, I was still only number 2 in my market, so I'm still frustrated that was the case. We created a company in 2006 called Kinder Reese. And Kinder Reese was a coaching company, and in 2011 we created an organization called the National Association of Expert Advisors. You'll see this theme kind of throughout everything, because what we did was created a done-for-you solution for all of the things I'm going to be teaching. So I'm going to be teaching you some principles, but you'll see how we solved it with NAEA. And obviously, if that's something you're interested in, you can go look that up and look deeper into what it is that we do. So, but definitely. My focus and passion is helping real estate agents build successful businesses that work harder for them than they do for it. And so, a 6-step system, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you up front, I might not have 6 steps here, and I might not have them numbered right, because I was scrolling through this presentation and I was like, man, I don't see number 3 or what. So I might have that part messed up, but I promise you the steps are all in here. So differentiated value proposition, having a trust-based business, the pre-appointment. What do you do right before the appointment to set yourself up for success? How to have an instant connection and build rapport with anyone, and then establishing your authority, and establishing yourself as the authority. How do you demonstrate your value in a way that people look at you different, as if you're the go-to expert? And then having a proven, repeatable system, a process for making your value visible. So one of the big takeaways from this presentation will be, in the absence of value, people question price. And so if you don't have a reason why people should do business with you above doing business with anybody else that's clear, and that you can show them and make the value visible, you get people asking you to do it for less. You get people that hire another agent over the price they give, or whatever the case may be. So we're going to eliminate all of those problems with this process. So attract, not chase. So you must create a defining gap between you and the competition. It's on this book, Jack Trout's book, Differentiate or Die. If you differentiate with value or die with price. And so we call it the race to the bottom. If people are asking you to discount, it's because they didn't see the value. And so they think we're all the same. They think us as agents, we're all the same, and we do not want to be the same. So as an example of these are a couple things that have rolled out in the past few years about real estate agents. Most agents don't trust real estate agents, and this was a poll that was done, and a Gallup poll that was put out, and the high percentage of people do not trust the real estate agent. This is actually Realtor Magazine, and NAR put out a danger report in 2016, and the number 1 biggest threat to the real estate agent in the industry, according to NAR, the association that we all are part of, it is the masses of marginal agents are threatening the industry. That is, unskilled salespeople who lack the experience to coach buyers and sellers. The real estate industry is saddled with a large number of part-time, untrained, unethical, and or incompetent agents, according to NAR's report. This knowledge gap threatens the credibility of the industry. Wow. Our own organization says there's so many marginal, untrained, unskilled, and potentially incompetent agents out there that it makes us all look bad. And that's the truth. And this is the danger report. It was a 160-something page report. And number one, the real estate industry saddled with a large number of part-time, untrained, blah, 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 right? The real estate agent, the average agent is really the biggest threat. We call this the average frustrated agent, also known as the AFA. I'd say they sell less than 6 homes a year. They tell their clients whatever they want to hear, not what they need to hear. They're probably either untrained or, in some cases, worst cases, unethical. They rarely can chew gum and walk at the same time. And the consumer thinks that that's who we are, right? That's the problem that we have to do. That's why we have to differentiate, right? So you guys all know somebody in your office you're thinking about right now that you're like, I know exactly which agent he's talking about. We all have AFAs in our own office and our own, or we've done a deal with one, or worst case, you're doing a deal with one right now. That's when it really gets bad, because then you get to do both sides of the transaction to get paid for one side. So the AFA, and this is what it is. So we created NAEA, the National Association of Expert Advisors, to create a defining gap, a far separation from just being a real estate agent. It's not enough to just be an agent, not in the consumer's mind. The consumer thinks we're all the same. So we're full-time agents, professionals. You guys wouldn't be here on training today if you weren't a professional, if you weren't taking your industry and your business seriously. We tell clients what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. We're highly trained and ethical, extremely knowledgeable about the market, respected and trusted in our community. That's the difference. And our differentiated value proposition is for us. And if, I had this question asked, I was on a webinar yesterday, a Zoom live call yesterday, whatever it was, something here behind my computer. And it was Facebook Live. And they asked me, they said, Jay, and I didn't even know the question was coming. And so tell me if this would have thrown you off. You say, as a top agent, you most certainly would have to have an elevator pitch. If somebody asked you why they should hire you above hiring somebody else, what would you say? And in that moment, I want you to imagine what you would have said, right? What would you have said? And would it, you got a short period of time to, if that was a seller that is asking that question, well, why should I hire you? Above anybody else, or hey, normally that objection comes to you more like, hey, yeah, we've already got an agent, that's that I go to church with. Yeah, we've already got an agent. My Aunt Lucy just got her real estate license. Yeah, we've already got an agent, that lives in our neighborhood, right? What do you say when they say that? If you don't have a differentiated value proposition, then you lost that deal, and you only lost it because you didn't have a way to differentiate yourself. So when that question was asked of me, I've said this about 10 million times in my lifetime, and so I was ready for it. And I said, we have a proven, repeatable process backed by market research to sell your home for up to 18% more than the methods of traditional real estate agents. Would you like for me to show you how we do that? If you can just get the marbles out of your mouth and say that, you'll make more money in real estate. I can guarantee you that. The number of people you talk to that are a potential seller, I don't care if you're calling physicals or calling expires or it's a referral or whatever the case may be. If you can just articulate your value, it will be the difference maker in your business. Now, you got to be able to deliver on that. And so let me take you through the system. So I believe is that we've all been asking the wrong question. Many of us here today are thinking about how am I going to make my next sale? And I would like to challenge you to think a little bit differently about that. I think a more sophisticated question would be better. And that is, how do I set up a system of attraction that brings a steady, reliable stream of ideal potential clients to me, asking for my advice or assistance as the trusted authority on real estate, or even better, are predetermined to be my clients if accepted, if I decide to accept them as a client. Now, how many of you would rather have that business model, right? We're not going to go chase business. I like chasing business. I never liked it. I did it because I thought I had to and because I didn't know there was a better way. Once I learned how to attract business, that was way better, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. So we have understanding trust. I think everybody here probably understands this, but what we have to do is we have to learn how to get people to trust us. And trust-based marketing, which was really the class that I taught prior to this, it's probably recorded. You can probably go back and watch it. But I break down the trust-based business model and how you can engineer trust. And I'm going to cover some of that stuff here just because it'll be helpful for everybody that's watching. So, on trust, there's two sides of the equation. There's character and competence. And in your character is your intent, caring, transparency, openness, your integrity, honesty, fairness, authenticity. And then on the flip side is your competence, your capability, your skills, your knowledge, your experience, and your results, your reputation, credibility, your performance. And so those things have to match up in order for people to build trust. Biggest challenge to building trust is people can't possibly know, can't really come to trust you very easily. They can't know that your expertise is what it is, because I expect most of you in the room here are all experts, but they don't really know that unless they've done business with you. So we have to engineer trust into the process so that we build maximum trust and people want to hire us and they see the value in what it is that we do compared to everyone else. And that big gap, this huge gap between anyone else that comes into that listing appointment and you is there. So here's some of the benefits to the answer to that question, right? That sophisticated question. If you were able to do that, it would eliminate the commoditization brought on by the AFA, people asking you for a discount because some other yahoo decided to offer to do it at a discount. It would pretty much make your competition irrelevant. It minimizes or even eliminates price or fee resistance. It facilitates a higher profit per client. It makes your time infinitely more valuable. It creates a less stressful selling scenario, and that allows you to lower your cost of sales. It streamlines customer satisfaction because you can preset expectations, tell them set the expectations based on what you want them to be, not what they expect them to be or they would like for them to be. And then it creates a steady flow of pre-sold referrals, people that are pre-sold to do business with you based on the business model. So, and here's the thing about trust, relationship, equity, and wealth. There's no stability or equity in making sales. You're not really selling your expertise because your expertise, it has to be assumed because your prospect cannot intelligently evaluate your expertise. Everything said by you, your staff in person, and all medias of marketing is grossly devalued and handicapped if it's not being said by somebody whom the customer trusts. So where does trust come from? First and foremost, you must understand that before trust, people trust for the wrong reasons. By understanding how people come to trust, you can deliberately manufacture maximum trust into the process of marketing and sales, and that's what we do. So understanding trust, where does it come from? We trust people of authority. Police officer, if you were in trouble, you would run to a police officer and hope that they would help you. We trust our doctor. How many of you have ever, I know all of you have had a seller argue with you about what price, but have you ever argued with your doctor about anything that they tell you? Very rarely, right? We tend to trust their authority. And so credibility, a factual basis for trust. Longevity, years in the business, years in the community. Affinity, this is a huge one. Shared background. You tend to trust somebody that's been, and maybe went to the same college or in the same branch of the military. Doesn't mean that you should trust them. But just because of that shared affinity, you're more easily trusted. And so these are things you can use and leverage when you think about affinity. Is a whole nother topic we could talk about in terms of marketing, about leveraging things that, that's in alignment with, affinity with you and make a much, much better gain. I'll give you an example. We've got a friend of ours, Andrew Gadash, who has 90 or 95% market share of all lakefront property on this one lake in his marketplace. And it's a ton of sales every year. He does over 300 deals now a year, but he has almost 100% market share. But guess what? He's a lake guy. He shows houses by boat. He's a part of that scene. That's his thing. And so he's naturally going to be much more easily trusted, but now he owns that marketplace. But that was deliberate by Andrew to go after that and segment that market. That's just an example. So celebrity, being known for something or something, familiarity, reassuring omnipresence. When they see you everywhere, when people turn around, they see a sign in the yard, then down the road, they see another sign in the yard. When they see you everywhere, they're going to more easily trust you. Maybe you pick up the phone and call your list. Have you ever had anybody call you because you sold a house down the street and they just picked up the phone and called you? They drove by you every day for however long that sign was up. So that's creating this reassuring omnipresence that you're familiar. Let's give that lady a call, right? So frequency, more often heard and seen, more easily trusted. Second party transferal, earned, engineered, borrowed, rented, purchased endorsement. We see it everywhere in marketing today that they're leveraging celebrity, leveraging even, Geico's the best. They're like leveraging like C-level. I don't even know if you consider it C-level celebrity. But again, the consumer sees that, oh, so-and-so says, use this service, so it must be trustworthy, right? That's how we come to trust. It doesn't make sense, but that's understanding the psychology of how people come to trust is how you can manufacture this into your marketing like other companies do as well. Geographic or target market, being for a specific customer. This is like, for an example, first-time home buyers or empty nesters, being specific for, that's for me. Oh, you're specializing in that? That's for me. That's going to trust you a lot quicker, a lot easier in marketing when you do that. And geographic or target market, okay, read that. Demonstration, seen is believing. That's my favorite one. If you can demonstrate your expertise, which I'm going to show you how to do today, you can easily, it's the best thing you can do, right? You guys have seen the commercial with the guy that cuts his boat in half and then puts it back together with Flex Seal or whatever the heck it is, right? Or he cuts the screen out and puts it in the bottom of his boat. A lot of people buy that stuff. Probably a lot of you have that stuff in your cabinet at home. I know I got it. I bought it. I don't even know if I needed it for any reason specific when I bought it, but I sure bought it. I was like, that stuff looks like it works. I'm going to buy it. They just showed you it worked, right? It was demonstration. At the highest level, demonstration is the most powerful thing. Also the most difficult thing for us to do when you think about how to make your value visible. We're going to do that today. So how do you manufacture celebrity and authority? Write a book, write a how-to guide. If you wrote a how-to guide, being as seen on all these different icons and stuff like that, featured in different magazines or for writing articles, which is easy to do these days, having a local radio show or a local podcast, interviews with local affinity groups, public speaking. Anytime you're speaking on stage, those pictures are valuable because what is the assumption when somebody sees you speaking? You must be an expert about something, right? So like if you're doing any of these types of things, you want to make sure you get pictures of. Public relations, chamber contributor, you can contribute to the Chamber of Commerce, pictures with celebrities. Ironically, any picture with any celebrity, people tend to trust you more just because you're with a celebrity. It don't make any sense. You could post a photo right now of you and Snoop Dogg, and people will think more highly of you, and you would become more trustworthy to them just simply because you were with a celebrity. Doesn't make sense, but it's what works, right? So I'm not saying that you have to have a picture with Snoop Dogg, although that would be pretty cool, right? Designations from higher authority, borrowing local celebrity. So local celebrities, people that you maybe sold a home to that's more of a local celebrity, leverage that stuff. That's again, it makes you more trustworthy in everything you do in marketing. So step one. So that's a whole nother session, right? But I wanted to kind of preface that with this because that's really it's a piece of why all this works. But the pre-appointment. So pre-planning prior to the call is critical. Making sure that you're prepared. There's all kinds of things. You do the research. You can go out and find out information about people on Facebook. Look at their entire profile. What are the things that they like or they're interested in? Also, Spokio, Pitbull. There's probably a whole bunch of other ones. And definitely do the research on the homes. You have to know every house that's sold in the neighborhood. The worst thing that can happen to you, you want to know how to lose a listing really fast? Have the seller bring up a sale that you didn't know about, right? Or that you couldn't answer the questions about. So you got to do the work ahead of time. One of the things that is and it doesn't have to be this giant shock and awe package. Just by the way, it doesn't have to be this. But in a perfect world, this is what you would have. Before the reason that you have, if anybody in here feels like when they go on a listing appointment that they have to sell themselves or sell why somebody should hire them, and that's kind of what the appointment seems to be focused around, then it's not being done the right way. You want all the selling to have been done prior to you getting to the appointment. So, and most of you probably either have mailed something or sent something out ahead of appointments and then you quit doing it because you didn't really know why you were doing it. Well, the reason why and the principle behind this is that if they consume enough stuff ahead of time prior to the appointment, then when you get there, you don't have to sell yourself, because anytime you sell yourself on an appointment with the seller, you are devaluing yourself because you're the one selling, right? And you're also creating resistance. So it's not a good selling scenario to be in when you start selling. When you get there, you don't want to have to start getting, showing them all the woo woo rah rah. Here we go. Look at me. Look at all my awards. That's the opposite of what you want to do. You want that stuff to arrive long before you get there. So make sure that you have something. I don't care what it is, but that package should be differentiating you as the go-to expert in the marketplace. And again, leveraging the things we talked about with the marketing pieces that leverage trust, right? So testimonials, all that good stuff. So these are just some examples of things that we would include in our shock and awe package. We wrote these for every member of NAEA essentially. This is a magazine tear sheet. We co-wrote a book, different pictures or photos with us and celebrities. Again, look, me doing a radio show makes no sense, but people tend to trust you more when you leverage this type of marketing. So all that kind of stuff, speaking on stage, all that good stuff, right? So now to the most important part of this. So here we go. Seller counseling interview. So what should happen is there should be, ideally it's not you, but for a lot of you it's going to be you. So it's not a problem. It's just, I sucked at following the process myself, but I was always good at hiring people that were better than me. So this is just a questionnaire, and there's a couple of key things I want to point out because we don't have all day today to go through this. But this is a one-page questionnaire that you or someone on your team completes with the prospect prior to setting the appointment, okay? And it sets you apart from your competitors as well. It helps you decide if it's a good appointment, and it helps you gather all the necessary information to prepare for the appointment. It takes about 20 minutes to go through this stuff. It's best if it's not done by you, but if that's the only option, that's fine. So one of the key things that you want to have is what would you say the best features of your home? What do they love about the home? The reason you want to gather that information, and all this other stuff is important too, but the reason that's important is because when we get to the house, the number one goal we have is to connect and become their best friend. That's the next step in the process. And so because if you've ever lost a listing because you got out-friended, I'll tell you a story about that when we get there. So definitely it sucks. You don't want to lose it because they just felt more comfortable with somebody else. So this is information that you're going to use. And the crazy thing about this is everything that they tell the inside sales agent is the position that does this intake form for us in our business model. But if it could be anybody, it could be a husband and a wife, it could be an assistant, whatever, that fills out this information. But they'll tell you a lot of different information that you can then use in the listing appointment that's going to help you with the next two steps, which is connecting and becoming their best friend, and then establishing your authority. Okay, so you got to have that information. You have to have a timeline. When would they like to have this move happen? If they could wave a magic wand, when would you like this move to happen? And so our target date would be to have the home sold by what, right? And because we have to have something. If we're going to create a plan, we have to have a start date and an end date in order to have a plan. And so we want to know what it is they're trying to do, why they're trying to do that, and what the target date is. Any upgrades they may have done. These are going to be things that are emotional hot buttons when you're walking through the property that you'll be able to easier connect with them if you point them out. When I say it's better that someone else does this, they never seem to, I don't know how to explain this psychology of this one, but they tend to not remember almost, it seems like, that they told your ISA about the new hot water tank that they just put in, or the new wood floors that they just put in. And so when you're walking through the house and you go down on your hands and knees, are these new wood floors? They're like, they are, yes. And they get all excited and they connect with you and they're like, you noticed, you say, I told you this was a good investment, honey, right? Like that's it. Again, you have to connect with both people. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I get too excited. All right. So, but that's what happens. And so, and again, trust me, I used to go on 5 appointments a day, average probably 3 or 4 appointments a day. 5 was a bad day, honestly, because your brain's mush by the end of the day. But I had time slots in my calendar that I would be willing to go on these appointments. And so when I tell you I've lost every possible way you can lose an appointment, I don't think there's many human beings that have been on more listing appointments than me. And I don't think there's many human beings that lost more listing appointments than me. And so I think because of my competition against a really good team, I had more losses, but it forced me to refine my process to a point that probably nobody's ever had to do to be highly successful. And so I think that's what it is. Maybe there's something else to it. But so there's literally not a way that you could lose a listing appointment that I haven't figured it out and lost. And let me tell you another thing. On every single listing appointment, you do an autopsy. You call and find out. If I saw it in the MLS and I didn't get the listing and I went to meet with them, I called them 100% of the time, not because I'm disciplined to do that, but because I'm morbidly curious as to what the heck I did wrong. Choose someone else, because my belief was that I could help them better than anybody. So when they didn't hire me, I wanted to understand what I what I could have done differently, not because they were going to tell me what I could have done differently, but they could tell me why they didn't hire me and why they hired someone else. I had to figure out what I had to do differently to not have people feel that way, right? So it was fascinating for years, but I'm just obsessed, all right? I don't know what else to tell you. So this is the most important question here. We're going to move past this. Do you have an idea of what you think the home will sell for? When you ask this question, you will inherently 80% of the time get the response, well, we were kind of hoping you would tell us, right? And so that's, don't move past that. Here's how you reframe. It's called a reframe. And you just reframe the question once or twice is usually all it takes, and you'll get it 9 out of 10 times. And so you say, well, what did you think do you have an idea what you thought your house might be worth? Kind of non-threatening, right? And they say, oh, we're kind of, you could tell us that. And you say, like, well, if you had to guess, what would you say? And they're like, well, maybe we hope you would tell me, you would tell us when you come out. You're like, well, if you had to pull the number out of the air, what would you say? Right? The tonality is important there. And it ended on an up tone, an up note. It's non-threatening, and you're going to get most people. And then they're going to tell you like 350,000, right? Like they're going to tell you the number. And so, but you need this. The reason that's important is because when we get into this next couple steps in the process, you're going to need to pull a range of comparables that includes their number, even if their number is ridiculously high, right? So that's why we have to do it, because otherwise you break rapport. And what happens when you break rapport, I'll tell you what happens. Whenever you're going through this range, because we're not going to give them price, I'm going to teach you that here in a minute too. When you're going through a range and your range doesn't include their number, they'll look at each other, they'll look at you, and if you just connected and became best friends, y'all ain't best friends no more. And it's really hard to recover from that, because now they don't think you're the expert, the authority. In their mind, they believe that maybe it's worth that, even though you can get them to come around to the right price. In that moment, you lose the listing. So that's one you don't want to have happen. So really, really important. This is the hinge to the whole thing. So this is an important number. It's not like a little thing. This is everything, getting that number, because it sucks to lose. So, all right, so here's another thing I learned. So I had a guy that I used to compete against in Pam and Barry's office. He was a sales guy, really good. He used to run him. He used to be the sales manager at a Chevrolet dealership. So I'd actually dealt with him before. He's a good salesman. And I got a phone call one evening, and it was Kevin Munchell is his name. Kevin calls and says, hey, Kinder, I just want to let you know I freed up your evening. You're 6 o'clock over in Sungate. I took that listing this morning. Just wanted to let you know you don't have to worry about going out there. Now, he enjoyed making that call because trust me, he enjoyed making that call. I was furious. I was furious. So I called to find out what the heck this guy did, because I always go last, and you should always go last too. Do not go. You can't. Here's why. You can't win when they're going to want it. All they want to hear. Let me just tell you what they want. Every seller wants to know one thing. What's the number? What's the house? What do you think the house is worth? What do you think we're going to price at? They're looking for a number. That's the number one thing they're looking for. And so they're going to want to hear, if they had 3 appointments, they're going to want to hear what that third person thinks the house is worth. They're going to want to hear that. And so they're not going to just list it with you unless you have a really good strategy, which Kevin did. Kevin listened to some training about really hardcore closing it. And I know exactly what it is, where he went to. I mean, I've been through it before. I don't like that type of selling. Again, I don't like having to be pushy and sell. I'd rather people be magnetically attracted to me. And so we created this little, at the end of this appointment, we set the appointment, and there's a question, if they mentioned if they had a market analysis, or did you plan on interviewing other agents? And then we ask them this question. We say, I'd like you to make a promise to me. We're going to be Jay's going to be putting a lot of time and effort into getting ready for our appointment. Please do me a favor and don't list your home with anyone until you've heard what we have to offer that no one else can. Is that okay? And so they say yes to that. First of all, that's a moral obligation, right? People that make more, and I would rather you say, you promise? I'd rather you say that. If that doesn't work for you, say whatever, but get them to say yes. Moral obligations, people just don't tend to want to break them. What he was doing on those appointments was he was hard selling to get the listing, and he even offered to lower the commission to 4% in order to get the listing, right? And because he knew if I came in after him, he was dead. I was going to get it. And so he would try to close really hard to get that listing. So And then the next thing we say is, Mr. Seller, I want to make you aware that there are some agents that will do or say anything, use a bunch of, sleazy sales tactics to try to close you on the appointment. And I've even seen agents be willing to lower their commission to 4% just so you don't hear what we have to say. So just promise me you're aware of that and that you won't sign anything. Okay, is that cool? And they'll say yes again. Now you got them. 100% of the time, no one's going to sign a listing until you get there. So that's just again another little notch in the belt in the process of making sure you do every step right. So now next step. I have no idea if we're in the right order or not. Step 3, if that's the right number, or if it's not, but I think it is. So instant connection and building rapport. So you can lose. This is probably, if you're really good at this, you could probably be really successful from just these couple things, building rapport being one of the biggest ones. And so, people do business with people. We all know that, fill in the blanks, right? Know, like, and trust, right? People like people who are like themselves, and people know, like, and trust you are more likely to refer you business. This is the lifeblood of real estate right here. When you're good at this stuff, it really does matter. And I'm not going to be able to spend a ton of, this is going to be a rapport building session. But there's a ton you can research on this to get better at it if you're not good. But if you're really good, one of the things that I found out early in my career, and funny thing is, and people always think I'm weird for this, but I even would call the people that said yes, I would ask them why they list with me, right? Because I wanted to know, what did I say right? I wanted to know what I did right. And so, and I called this lady one of the first times, and I said, to be honest, I was way excited. And because I'd never beat her before, and she was number one. And so so I called him. I said, hey, I just was curious. I really appreciate the opportunity. And, I don't even remember what I said. But I did ask her, why'd you list with me? Somehow or another, I asked the question. And she said, you know what? You were just more enthusiastic. And, we felt like she was just being real pushy. But you were just, we just honestly felt like you could get the job done. And it all boiled down to my enthusiasm. I was like ignorance on fire, probably more than anything. But being enthusiastic, in any marketplace you can be enthusiastic. Anything that's going on, you can be enthusiastic. Next thing, sharp as a tack. You got to know the numbers. And the next step, determining who the decision maker is, and then we'll say revisiting what you've learned from the seller counseling interview. What data did we gather that we're going to leverage to build and connect with each person that comes in? So, all right. So establish a connection and build a rapport. So stay positive no matter what the situation is. Find things in common. You're going to look kids, college teams, where they're moving to, books, places they've traveled to that you've been. Like, there's so many things that you can do. I remember when I started really trying to unpack my process, and it came because Mike Reese asked me a question. He said, hey, Kinder, what's the thing, if you could teach somebody one thing, what do you think would be the thing you could teach better than anything? And I was like, man, I don't know. Probably how to get a listing. And I said that because at the time I was going on a bunch of appointments every day. And so he had just created this big training around expireds, and that's one of his niches he's really good in. And so I started creating this training. Like, I started thinking about, like, well, if I was going to distill this down to principles so I could teach it, which is so hard to do. Like, it took 18 months of me racking my brain to break this all down into a system. But essentially, I was paying attention. I went on this appointment. There was 5 interviews. I was the 5th agent. Okay. And this was a situation, like, I love this situation. I'm like, who's crazy enough to want to interview 5 real estate agents? Like, you got to be nuts even to want to do that. Like, I mean, or it couldn't have been that bad. I mean, you just pick one, shoot. I mean, most people would. So I'm this 5th agent, so I know they've got to be really particular. So I'm not going to bust my process, and I'm thinking about my process as I'm driving up because Mike's got me thinking about it. And so I pull up to the driveway, and the first thing I see is a Harley Davidson truck and a Harley in the garage and an OU mailbox, Oklahoma Sooners. I'm from Oklahoma. So I'm like, this is going to be easy. And so I know I'm going to be able to connect with them. And if you connect with someone and become their best friend, man, you can win almost every listing. Like that, it's a big lever. It carries a big stick when you can at least do this step. So this is why many of you who do really well will struggle, because you think you got the listing won because they like you so much, and then you'll lose, and you won't know why, and you'll be like, dang, I thought I had that one. It's because you didn't have a process, right? And so I had a guy that we used to go on, take him on listing appointments, and we hired him, and he was a brand new agent, but he was good sales guy, really likable. he would go off the rails on this process, not even close to follow the process. And as I would do an autopsy with him on every appointment every day at 5 o'clock, because we'd send him on all the appointments, and then I would follow and see if he followed the process. He wouldn't know that he was, he didn't know if he was following the process for sure or not. He kind of thought he was, but I was trying to help him understand where he wasn't so that he could get clear and see, okay, well, why did I not do that, what you told me to do? And then I gave him price, you know what I'm saying? And so anyways, there's a process. If you follow the process, the highest chances of winning are there. The odds are greatly in your favor. Don't follow the process, you don't really know what's going to happen. It's called winging it. And so you can be really good at this and do really well in real estate. But I'm telling you, if you become a master at it, there's these other pieces that are going to be the most important. So finding something to connect and become their best friend. And so there's two types of motivation. People either move towards pleasure, opportunity-based, smallest percentage of people out there, and then or away from pain, fear-based. That's 90% of people. So never ever move on to the next step in this process until you've connected with both parties or all the parties that are decision makers in the transaction. So when you walk into the house, I didn't give you this. There's two things I didn't mention. So when I walked into the house, I didn't know that I was doing this, but I know what it is. I identified it, broke it down, principled, and here's what it is. And so I would walk in, introduce myself. I'd have my folder and everything with me, and that first 10 seconds, I would say, all right, who wants to give me the grand tour? And the reason I was doing that was because I was identifying the decision maker in the process. And pretty clearly, you'll notice the decision maker either tells the other person to take you on the tour or they take you on the tour. Really important to connect with that one. Okay, so that one is going to be the most important relationship. This house that I went on that had the Harley Davidson truck in the OU mailbox and the Harley in the garage. To finish that story, I get in there. I say, who wants to give me the grand tour? Wife says something that's not in English to the husband. Husband takes me on the grand tour. We're best friends. Things are going well, except I know he's not the decision maker. So, and it doesn't matter. You gotta connect with both of them every time. You cannot go move to the next step in this process unless you found something to connect with both of them. Okay, this is a big mistake I made. And so I knew that was the case, and I knew I was the fifth agent, and I had a feeling that she had been kicking all these agents out of the house, is what it felt like. And so now they didn't know what my process was. Connect and become your best friend. I take you to the kitchen table next. And then I start flexing. We start building authority. And so once we're friends, it's cool. Then I'm going to take control of the situation, but not until I got connections with both parties. So I go sit down on the couch. There's nothing in this house, nothing on the walls. They've boxed everything up, and they're sitting on the couch with a lady that I don't even think I speak the same language of. And I'm just stubborn enough to think that somehow I'm going to figure out a way to build rapport with her. And so I'm sitting there, and sure enough, I'm talking to the husband more than her. She's kind of standoffish a little bit. And so, I'm fiddling around. I'm starting to feel a little pressure because I'm like, this is not going well. Okay. I know that she doesn't seem to like me, right? Is what it felt like. And so finally I said, so where are you guys moving to? And he said, Atlanta. I said, oh, really, man? I just got back from Atlanta like last week. He's like, what part? And they were like, Buckhead. And I'm like, that's where I was at. And she lights up like a Christmas tree and starts talking about this condo that they're getting and da 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 da. Now, look, that could have backfired, right? She could have been not happy about the move. But my guess was if you're leaving Lawton, Oklahoma, you're fairly happy. So that was at least my guess anyways. And so she lights up like a Christmas tree, goes online, shows me pictures of it and everything else. I'm like, got it. Now let's move to the kitchen table, right? Connected and became their best friend. So that's the piece that I didn't tell you. So as we move into this next step, this is the positioning. This is where we build authority. You're going to be positioned as the expert. At this point, you're going to become like the doctor. You're going to become at least Dr. Dre. We'll say, but at least we're going to become Dr. Dre, and we're going to tell them what they need to hear, and not what they want to hear. So what we do now is we review what's information. I might have it in the slide here. Sometimes I get all excited and start talking, and then like don't tell you. And I go to the slide and say, oh, all that stuff that's on the slide. So there's two things. One we call it the rope-a-dope, CMA. I'll hit you with that one if you haven't heard this before. This is literally a gold nugget. So yeah, I'll start with that. So as I'm laying stuff down on the table, there's two things that I do every single time. The first thing I do is I lay down a magazine tear sheet. I'd like to ask you, why do you think I do that? Not because I want to try to explain why I'm on the cover of a magazine. it's because I want them to see that I was on the cover of a magazine. And so when I lay it down, I always say, this is good bathroom reading material if you get bored. Just explains the system that we use through NAEA and how I'm a certified home selling advisor. But it's good stuff, but it's really more for if you get bored, you can read it. And I downplay it. I don't talk it up. That's the worst thing you do. Just downplay it. Not a big deal. Because the minute they look down, I learned this. I didn't know what I was learning at the time, but I looked down, I used to pay for this company that created them. It was like $4,000. But I had these magazine tear sheets, and I was younger at the time, and I saw a seller look down at it. They looked back up at me, and they treated me different the entire time. It was unbelievable. I was like, that's unbelievable. They literally are treating me different because I'm on the cover of this stupid little magazine thing. And so I recognize this is part of that trust building and that influence that gets built when people see that you're truly an expert and you ain't just the average Joe. So you ain't the average Joe Exotic. So anyways, that's why the magazine tear sheet always is the first thing I lay down, because I'm not saying it, but they're seeing it, and they don't know why, but they are starting to trust me. So the next thing is we never do is a CMA, and this is my favorite thing. This is how you demolish your competition without ever saying a bad word about them. So it doesn't matter who your competition is, by the way. So every real estate agent does a CMA. In fact, many offices mandate you must turn in a CMA with your listing. We might even do that here at EXP, I'm not sure. However, the point is, I want you to write this one down. There's a couple writer downers here I'm going to give you. This is one of them. Money moves to difference, not similarity. We've already talked about it's a commodity. The AFA, we all look the same. We all do the same thing. We all come out and do a dog and pony show and show them a CMA. What do you expect? That is going to get you people asking you to discount. That is going to get people questioning what you know about pricing. That's going to get you everything that you don't want. So we can't do the same thing and do the same thing everyone else does. So instead, what I do, and when I say this, I say, I'm laying down all my stuff on the counter. I say, it's funny, when I got into real estate, they used to teach me this thing called a CMA, and I use air quotes, a CMA, right? And I said it's pretty archaic, and there might be a few dinosaurs that still use this, but think about it. Think about it this way. If I was going to look at homes that were sold historically, we don't know if it smelled like cat urine. We don't know if they were in a divorce. We don't know if they were hoarders. We don't know if it was undervalued for some reason that they needed to make a sale. And so if we're going to price your home based upon historical data, I don't think that's why you have me here tonight. I think what you want me to do is help you to price and position your home to attract the most money in today's market. And so that historical approach is sometimes useful to look at comps, but doing just a CMA is not going to be the most valuable way to position and price to attract the highest offers. Does that make sense? And they're going to be shaking their head like, he's so right. That makes exactly total sense. I'm not interested in why that house sold it. I don't know nothing about that house. Who knows why they sold that cheap? So what happens here is you're creating doubt in their mind. And every agent that came in and presented their ta-da CMA pre-printed, look how pretty it is, all these pretty pictures, it's you telling them what the house is worth. You can't be on the same page with someone if it's you telling them what the house is worth. It's got to be us discovering what the house is worth together, not me telling you what you don't want to hear if its price is different than what you want it to be. And so a lot of this got perfected, by the way, in the downturn of 2007, 8, 9. Going on appointments when you had to tell people it was worth way less than what they thought, and you had to convince them of that. You had to be really good at convincing them. Otherwise, they overpriced it. Otherwise, it went into foreclosure. Otherwise, you didn't make any money. Otherwise, every other possible bad scenario you can think of. That's what it was like. And so it became I had to get real clever about how I got them to see, first of all, okay, this dude knows what he's talking about. He's smart. He gets it. He understands it. I thought I was a smart homeowner and I knew how to sell houses better than anybody, but this guy seems to be really sharp, right? So that's the point. So that's why we do the CMA. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to go through comps later, but not now. Not now, not in the beginning of the appointment, not until they say yes to your system. Double checking on time. We are on track. All right. So I go through, see it. Here it is again. My slides. If I just follow my slides, I could just say everything on here perfectly. But no, you got to go and wing it and go off the slides. Anyways, I said all that stuff basically. All right. So next thing you're going to do. So this is important. So I didn't tell you this one thing. All right, so once we sit down, I'm going to review, no different. Imagine this. You're in the doctor's office. They bring the clipboard in. What do? They read through it. They're looking. They ask a few questions, right? And they just make sure that, whatever you said hurts is what hurts, and that you ain't had any new problems since the last time you did that, right? So, but then what do? They do what doctors do. And now we're going to do what Dr. Dre does. So we're going to take this information. So it looks like you guys, basically you got a target date of this day. You want to be gone by July 1st. Is that right? Yep. Okay, good. So that it hurts here, right? That's the date. All right. And okay, and this stuff, and I'm reviewing some of this stuff. Now, if I was walking through the house and I saw that Italian marble floors that they talked about, I'm going to point that out. I'm going to connect and become their best friend. So I'm not trying to go over that stuff now. I'm just trying to identify timing motivation is what you said it is. And once I go through that, and if everything is the same as what it was in that intake form, and I say, and I lean in, I say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, from this point forward, I'm going to tell you everything that you need to hear and not what you want to hear. Are you guys okay with that? Right? Now, the tone of that meeting from that point forward we just went from being best friends, talking about all the stuff we had in common, to now I'm here to tell you I'm here to advise you as the expert on what you need to do in order to accomplish that goal. And so I'm going to do everything I can. The advice that I'm going to give you is going to be what you need to hear. Make sure you get moved to Tulsa by July 1st so you can be with those new grandkids. Is that okay? And you want to use that language, whatever the reason why. So, so you can get moved to such and such so you can whatever, right? Like use their language, use it back to them. This is why you want to do this, because you want this, right? And so use that language back to them. They're going to look at you. They're going to appreciate, a deep feeling of appreciation starts to come over them because, oh, I can trust this person. They're going to tell me, they're going to be real with us, right? Not trying to sell me, right? So that's an important little transition into the data, and then we go into the data. I'm gonna fly through this. What you should take away from this is, number one, whatever it costs for keeping current matters, buy it. Don't care what it costs. It's like $20-$30. If you're not buying it, you're not freaking serious about your real estate career. I feel that strongly about their content that they're putting out is amazing, and this is national scope of the market. The reason why we do this is to make you an expert. Okay, you're either an expert and you either understand what's happening right now in the mortgage markets, and you either understand what the impact of shadow inventory is on foreclosures and what that looks like in 6 months if you're advising somebody to sell now or sell later, or you don't, right? This is where you become an expert. If you want to become an expert, do it. Keep it current matters. Okay, I just have to convincingly convince you that this shit is really good. Okay, sorry for my little S-bomb. Yep.
Jay,
Yes.
I came in a little later because I had to run a small errand. Can you please send me the slides, please? I really was wanting to hop on your class on time, but the connection wasn't good either. I was doing on my mobile. Thank you for the interruption. You'll redo this class. Redo this class.
Yeah, they're going to record it. It's recorded, and I'm definitely going to share my slides. So thumbs up. Yes. Thanks for jumping in. It happens.
Yes, great content. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you so much. Awesome. All right. So keeping current matters. They have a ton of slides on things that. What Steve Harney does is he goes through and explains why this is relevant, and then he explains how you use this on a listing appointment with someone who might be thinking it's worth more than it really is, or how to use this content. What you're trying to accomplish during this part of this is to establish your expertise in knowing the market. So, hey, you guys want to get gone by July? That's really good, because based on what we're seeing, there's probably going to be, and I don't know what's coming. I'm not going to try to pretend that I can predict the future, because we don't know until this whole thing's over what the real impact's going to be. But I can tell you this: if things change, you better get good at this. You better get real good at this, because it sucks whenever you don't, because you got nothing but people pissed off because you're not able to properly guide them. And when the market starts to shift and they play chase the rabbit down the hill, that's the most miserable time in my life. I had 200 plus listings and not one of them were happy. So, just take it for what it's worth. It's best to be an expert, right? So all this stuff, again, this is an example of shadow inventory and predicting what was more to come that people didn't know about. And so when I'm trying to convince someone, listen, get it priced right. This is a good slide to show people, like, in our area is red. You see where it's at, red. That means that we got a lot more, inventory coming on the market, whatever, right? So, like, you're going to use this information on a national scope of the market, what's going on. Another reason why you do this is because nobody else does. Again, we're being different, okay? You're a high-level expert. The goal of this step is to establish authority. At some point, you want them to be looking at you and go, this is the smartest person that I can entrust my largest asset with, that I've talked to. And in some cases, their eyes are going to roll back in the back of their head because there's so much data that they're just like, whatever, I'm hiring this guy, he knows what he's doing, right? And so that's part of the process of and again, the reason that's important is because when it's time to talk price, which we're not going to do right now, we're not going to get into price. This is how you lose every listing, is telling them what that damn house is worth. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to need them to listen to what we advise them to do, and we're going to tell them what to do, but we're going to do it once they've hired us, once they've determined we have the best system. So then the next phase of this is the 1,000-foot view of the market. There's a bunch of stuff out there. I would say what I'm about to show you is real market reports. I like all kinds of graphs. I paid for all of them because there was something I found that I could leverage and use in a situation that was made a good visual representation of what I'm trying to tell somebody as far as the market. But these next two ones are, this is pretty good. The importance of this one, and I can't really zoom in on it too well here, but there's price ranges. So remember when I said we want to make sure the range includes the price of the home that they think it's worth? This is as close as you're going to get to price. And this example here is not a good one because the ranges are only in 25,000 increments. I would want $100,000 increments, maybe $50,000 increments, so I can say, okay, well, it's 100. Really, I want 100,000. I want 100 to 200 or 100 to 150. I can say, okay, well, look at here. This is the total number of inventory. You can see the average days on market, the average list price, the total number of homes, and then the pending ratio. Okay, so I thought it's come here. It won't let me zoom in, dadgummit. So I apologize for that. But if you can see the pending ratio, this is the number. You want to know the number to predict if the market's shifting? It's the pending ratio. The pending ratio is how many homes that are currently under contract as a number compared to the number of available homes that are currently in supply on the market, active. So if you have a 10% pending ratio, then basically you have not very. There's a lot more inventory available than there is homes that are currently under contract in this price bracket. And so the higher that goes, it goes, getting up around, 27% or 16%. 27% is good. 30% is better. You start to see that that's like less inventory. There's 2 months worth of inventory. If 10 homes sell a month and there's 20 homes on the market in that price range, then there's 2 months worth of inventory. So that means that if no new homes come on the market, all the inventory is going to be gone in 60 days. In that scenario, I am explaining to people, and this is, I wouldn't call this 250. This is probably 500-foot view. This document is what we call the market absorption analysis. This is the form that I use to get them clear. And these are just numbers that I use I like to know what's going on. If somebody asked me, if I walked into the bank and David Madigan, the president of the bank, asked me, hey, Jay, how's the market? Say, well, man, there's only 878 homes on the market currently. Last year, this time it was 1,076. So right now, things are looking pretty good. Days on the market's a little bit up, which is kind of concerning, but the average price is up about $6,000. I knew these numbers and I could talk about them. And people that ask you about real estate, these are the numbers you just want to be able to talk through. Just because people, man, that guy always knows what he's talking about. He always knows the numbers. And so that's an important thing. We did a lot more than that with market data and becoming positioned as the market expert. But that's an important step. So gummit, quit clicking the dang slide, Jay. All right. So these numbers, ignore these numbers. I have a feeling if you try to watch this and stop it and do the math here, it's not going to come out right. I've been told that before. And for those of you that are mathematicians that are going to really break this down, if you do this shit is amazing. It's just the best thing you can do. Their time frame is 90 days. So I'm going to say, okay, there's 93 homes on the market in this range, right? And that range that there includes their number. And there's been 47 that failed to sell, 116 sold in the past 12 months. And the total number of homes sold is 19, so there's 4.8 months worth of inventory. So this math may not be exactly right, but that's the gist of what you would have. And here's where it's important. So if there's 93 homes that are currently on the market and the number of inventory, this is the number you'll have the hardest time getting. I don't even care if you use it. I like to use it get an estimate of what I think is going to come active based upon what historically has come active. And if you can't find that in your MLS, that might be the trickier number to have, but you're going to have to guess. And if it feels like the market's not going one way or the other, then just use the same number as what's sold. And say, I'm guessing that there's going to be 57 new ones come on too. So they're competing with this 93 and the 57 that come on the market in the next 90 days, most likely. So the total inventory is 57 homes will sell, 93 homes won't sell. And then when I show them this, I say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what do you think we need to do to be one of the 57 homes that sell in the next 90 days and not one of the 93 homes that don't sell? And I shut up.
Hi, I'm Jay. Hi.
Yep.
Is there a third party that can do this so we don't have to spend 30 minutes doing all the calculations? Just calculate this?
I'm sorry, I'm not clear on what your question is.
Isn't there a third-party company that can get all this data?
Yeah. You're gonna definitely want to watch this again. So this is, no, you don't want to do that. You want to do it manually. And the reason you want to do it manually is because everybody else prints it out and they try to make it look pretty. And everything I'm about is not trying to do what everybody else does. And so this is you doing the work. And people are fascinated by doing the work, seeing you do the work. And then at this point, the reason I do this in front of them every single time without fail, the reason I do it is because when I get to this point right here, I'm going to ask them a simple question that I just asked them. What do you guys think we need to do to be one of the 57 homes that sell and not one of the 93 that don't sell? And that's the one. The first person that talks loses, right? At that point, whoever talks next is the person that loses. If I say something else, then I screwed it up. They're going to say what you want them to say. When you ask a question, inherently the person that's listening automatically answers it. It's how our subconscious mind works. If I could ask you, what's your favorite color? You don't have to answer that, but your brain has already gone and got the information, right? So that's what happens when I ask them this is a logical question, and you're asking people in an emotional state to go through answer a logical question themselves, as opposed to me telling them the price that they didn't want to hear. Right. The purpose of this is, and again, if the information was different, and the information I get here was showing me that there's only 2 months worth of inventory, I'm going to excitedly say, what do you think this means if all the inventory that's currently on the market is likely to be sold in the next 60 days? What do you think that means? What do you think we need to do? They're going to be excited, thinking, man, we're going to for sure sell it. We're going to be aggressive in our pricing strategy. We're going to be able to get the top of the market, maybe numbers no one's ever gotten before. They're going to be all excited about that. But that's the true numbers. I'm not trying to manipulate the numbers. I'm trying to find truth in the numbers and get them onto my way of thinking so that when it's time to talk price, they understand why I'm telling them what I'm telling them. Does that make sense? So that's what it is. So next slide. So the summary of this point, gather the critical information. We could hold all questions to the end. I'm happy to answer questions at the end. I'm almost done. But yeah, if we could just hold those to the end, I'll answer any questions. I'll stay as long as you guys would like and answer questions. So appreciate that. So summary to this point, gather critical information, connected and became their best friend. You established yourself as the expert, and nowhere in here have I tried to sell them anything, right? So I'm positioned as a friend and as an expert at this point. The next thing, this is a write down. I don't think I have a slide for it. So this is a transition statement. You transition from you've now got them on your way of thinking as it regards to price. Now they will ask you, well, what do you think it's going to be worth? They're going to want to get into the comps. They're going to want to get into your CMA. They're going to want to get to know what do you think it's going to sell for? Nope, we are going to refuse to do that, because what do you think the number one thing that people use to decide which agent they're going to hire is? Number one thing, price. Number two thing is likability. We already talked about that. So we're winning in that category. Number one thing is price. If you give them price, they're going to decide who they hire largely based on price, right? Largely based on price. So that's the most important thing. So we're not trying to sell. The transition statement goes like this. After that long pause, and they say, well, we're going to have to probably price it right, or whatever they say, you're going to say, that's right. And say, then you say, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, based on everything you guys have shared with me, there's no question I can get your guys' home sold by July 1st so you can get to Houston and see those grandkids. I'd like to show you how we're going to do that. Is that okay? Now you're getting permission to give them the presentation on your system for how you get that done. Okay? Very important transition statement. Hope y'all caught that. So now we're coming up on the hour, so I'm going to move fast through this part. I will tell you this: if you do all the steps I shared with you for just this far, if you do those very well, you will probably win a large percentage of your listings. And the most important thing that you don't want to make the mistake is telling them price. You just don't want to do that. You want to hold that till the end. They have to say yes to your system before you start doing the deep dive on where we're going to price and position the home in the marketplace. When they ask, say, hey, how much is, so what do you think that house is going to sell for? Jay, I'm curious what you're thinking. Well, you know what? We'll get into that. I want to go individually, comp by comp. I want to look at each one. No CMA. All the comps are going to be there. Every one that I wanted to put in a CMA is all there, printed out. I do the paper, and that's how I do it. If you don't want to use paper, that's fine. If you're a tree hugger, good for you. That's fine. I like to use the paper because I like to do the work in front of them because it's fascinating. It's not fascinating for you to show somebody a number on a computer. It's not fascinating. So that's why we don't do it. So this is the process we take them through. This is our system that you get certified through NAEA. I'm not going to get into it. Essentially, this is a one-page presentation. It's large, it's awkward, and it's once you understand how to use it, it's lethal. Okay, as far as the process goes, I explain to them. On this side, I explain to them. I say, this is what I tell them. I say, are you familiar with price elasticity? No, not really. What that means? Well, it means basically that there's a top of the market, middle of the market, and bottom of the market in every price range in America. So in this neighborhood, there's a very tip top of the market, and then there's homes that sell in the middle, and then there's homes that sell in the bottom. Does that make sense? And they say, yeah. I say, well, but what we've determined is that there's actually over 115 different variables involved in the home selling process. It's how we manage these variables that's going to determine whether you attract a high offer or you attract a low offer. Do you want to attract a high offer? Well, yeah, we want to attract a high offer. Okay, cool. So let me show you how we do that. So what we have is a proven, repeatable system that's backed by market research to sell homes for up to 18% more than the methods of traditional real estate agents. And then I take them through a process. There's law number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, or 7. And each one of these, I'm going to point out a couple little points. I'm not going to read this thing. It takes me 15, 20 minutes to do it. But I'm going to go through this whole thing. And at each one of these steps, I'm going to say, do you see how that could help you to sell your home for the most amount of money? Do you see how that could help you to put the most money in your pocket? And each time they're going to say yes. It's called a check-in. You're making sure they're paying attention, and you're making sure that they're saying yes. They're going to say yes all the way till you get to the end. When you get to the end of your presentation, it's real simple. You guys see that this system would be the best system to get your home sold for the most amount of money, and they're going to say yes one last time. That's where they just hired you, right? They just hired you. Now there will be 1 or 2 objections you may get during this presentation. One is all that you just talked about included in your price? And you say yes. Everything's included in your commission. Whatever your fee structure is, that's up to you. I don't care how you do it. You can charge an upfront fee for staging. You could do whatever. I don't know what you're doing. Pictures, how you charge for it, whether you offer it or not. My suggestion is we should offer everything. The most value, everything that you can add value, add that to your price and offer that to everybody. That's what I would do. Be the most valuable person in the marketplace. Where they go, when you get to the end of the presentation, they go, how much is this going to cost me? No, we charge whatever you charge, right? I don't care what you charge. I was expensive, but that's the process. So they said yes to you, and that's that. So the next, actually, let me see if we got. Yeah, okay, we're done. So that was it. So that's the process. Then you go into pricing. Definitely don't have time to get into pricing today, but there's I have a deep dive that I do in pricing. That's honestly, you guys probably don't even want to hear it, but it's.
Wait, is there a class part 2, Jay? For pricing?
Yeah. So there's not a part 2 to this. There is. We do a tremendous amount of training. This is me trying to give you. I just did this boot camp for 3 days. It was intense. 3 days in front of the Zoom screen. My eyeballs are about to bleed. But it's a 2-day training process that we take you through. So I'm trying to cover as much as I can in an hour. So if you can imagine how much I've got to leave out, unfortunately, that's just due to time. That's what I got to do.
No, you did it well. I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Jay?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to answer questions if they kick me out of here. I don't know what Randy, what's the rule here as far as that goes. I'm happy to hang out for a little while. I don't have any other appointments, but unless you guys have the room reserved or something. Right on, man. Cool. All right.
Okay. There was a few sheets back. It was a black and white sheet. It had the 93 and the number of homes and the new ones on the market.
Yep.
I think it was 57. Those numbers, you said you go over those with them. Is that something that you already have in your head, or did you already study that and memorize those numbers?
Yeah, yes. So I would have done that research ahead of time, and that way I can easily kind of go fill in the data, and so in fact I might even have some of that parts of that already filled out. I can't remember. I think I did actually because I wouldn't have been able to pull that information from anywhere else. So I probably did fill that out. These numbers were already filled out, and so. And I think I did the last bit of this math all right here on these last. Or can you still see my screen? I don't even know.
Yeah, but I thought
Okay.
the other sheet looked a little different.
Okay, you're talking about the one, the real market trends one that had the pendings and all that on it, the pending ratio and all that.
I can't remember. I tried to ask you then, but it was going fast. It was probably
Sorry.
about 5 or 6 slides ago. I don't know.
Okay, let me see if I can back into it.
Just simple black and white lines, and it had, I remember, 93 and 38% and 68%. That one.
Yep. So that's the same form. So that's
Oh,
the
it looks
exact same
different.
form. Yeah. So yeah, I would have filled this out based on the price range that included their price range, even if that wasn't relevant, right? Like sometimes people tell you a really stupid price, and you're like, oh boy, do I even want to go on this appointment? I don't give a whole lot of weight to their wave a magic wand price, but I want to include it in the range because I don't want to lose rapport, right? So if they really believe it's worth that and they're way off, and this becomes, again, this hasn't been our environment, right? Our environment's been different. Our environment has been, I'm going to show you that there's 2 months worth of inventory. We're going to be able to get multiple offers potentially, and things have been pretty good in most of the country. So, if it changes, this is just way more valuable way to do it because it gets them on, it brings them down to reality without you having to pop their balloon, right? That's what we're trying to do, is not upset them by you saying, here's my printout that says your house is only worth this, right? Like, this is our way of discovering it together. And then logically, they're coming to the conclusion on their own that, man, if we want this to happen, then, what this doesn't work on is unmotivated people. Okay. So like, you tell me you got a situation with the seller and they don't really want to sell, I can't help you, because if they're not motivated, you got to learn how to get them too motivated. Like I'll ask people like, well, what happens if the house doesn't sell by, next January? They'll be like, next January? Well, gosh, no, we need to sell it by then for sure. We'll already be moved, and we'll be paying 2 mortgages. And you got to take them to the place where there's pain, because they're not going there in their mind. They believe everything's going to be perfect. So, there are homes that don't sell in every market, good and bad. I think a little bit of a shift is what we're in for. And if that's the case, then you got to show people that with the new inventory that comes on the market, there's still expired. Dallas is one of the hottest markets in the country. You got expireds every day, hundreds of them. Why? Because people are overpriced. And so there are homes that don't sell. And there's one way to remedy that. That's price. I mean, it could be condition or location, but you can't fix location, and most people won't fix condition. So you got to fix price. So there's going to be a chance that a house doesn't sell. It happens in every market. So you want to be able to paint that picture that, hey, this ain't all roses and everything is going to sell. And even, and that's what the data is going to show in most markets. But you're going to use the data to get them to the way of thinking that you want them to, based on what they've given you in terms of what they think the house is worth. That's kind of the point of this whole form.
Thank you.
Jay,
Yeah.
I have a question to add on
Yes.
to piggyback on what you just say. So after what you just say to us, would it be intelligent to also add in the statement saying that I understand you want to go to Tennessee by this such and such date, and you're motivated to get there because your husband's starting a new job. So other than price, is there anything else that is stopping you from moving to do business with me today? Would that be okay to use that liner at that point?
At that point,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's, I would not use it there. It's not a bad check-in. I like the question. I've used it before. It didn't make like my all-time greatest one-liners. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but
I understand.
it's not a bad check-in. If you feel real comfortable at this point, you could do that. But to be fair, they haven't seen your presentation. So you haven't done any selling at this point. And my suspicion would be that at this point, you might have done a little bit more selling than what I demonstrated. And since you came in late, you probably just aren't aware of that. So to answer that question, I would say watch the beginning of how we got to the point where you would have said that. I just wouldn't do it at this point because I want to get all the way through the value where they're going to see how much value we bring in each one of these areas, and make that value visible and make them go, holy smokes! No one ever showed me a process. I mean, a system like. Then at that point, they've said yes 7 times. At that point, I'm telling them what to do. I'm not asking them, oh, well, so will you list it with me? That's the big difference in this presentation. At the end of this presentation, you tell people what to do. You don't ask them if they're going to list it with you. You tell them what to do. And they're waiting for it. Like if you don't say something, they're going to be like, okay, what are you going to tell us next? Like, tell us what to do, please. Like this isn't an appointment where I'm trying to win the business. It's an appointment where I'm trying to advise you on what to do. Based on everything that you told me, the next step is we need to take a look at the houses that have sold. Let's look at some of the active inventory that we're going to be competing against. Let's go through and look at where do we want to price and position this home to attract the highest offer.
Hey, Jay.
I'm about to fade it
Your
out there.
strategy. I like your
Hey, Jay.
exit strategy.
Yeah.
Middle strategy.
Darren, can you
Hi,
turn
Jay.
your mic off?
I think one of the chipmunks is here.
Darren, I think
Hey,
it's Mike.
Hi, Jay.
Hey, Jay, how are you?
Could you put the link on the black box so we can download that? The slide.
I'll put that. The slides. So it's not a link. So it's if I can load a keynote in here, I can do that.
Hi, Jay.
I'd also be really interested in the guaranteed sales system. It looked amazing, and it was very hard to read on the slides.
Right. Yeah. So all of that is all of that can be found if you're interested in deep. If you want to go deep onto this and learn, and you think it's something that you're really interested in, then you can go to kinderreese.com. That's me and Mike Reese. Kinder REESE.com. REESE.com. And click on get started, and then there's a submit question button, and then tell them you're interested in NAEA or the Certified Home Selling Advisor. This program actually it's not guaranteed listed system anymore. It's a Certified Home Selling Advisor designation. So it's a positioning where you're positioned as a Certified Home Selling Advisor. There's so much more. It takes me a day to cover it, a day and a half to cover it in boot camp. There's so much more to this whole system than what I'm able to kind of show here. But if you think this is like really helpful and you want more, it's not going to be much money for you. Like we don't charge a lot for this, especially for EXP. There's a huge discount. I think it's like $197, which is basically the price of the materials for each course, the buy side and the sell side. I think that's what it is. But anyways, that would be the best thing to do. Have a talk with them. The girls will tell you what we have and what you can, what it costs, all that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to add value, not sell anything. But for some of you, the right decision is going to be for me to sell you something. So like I'm not trying to do that, but if you're interested, that's what I would tell you to do is just see us out, and we're easy to find, and we've got good systems. So.
Hey,
Hi,
Jay,
Jay.
I have a question.
Jay, I have a question.
Yep.
Can we see you in action somewhere? Is there a video of you, how you do a mock listing presentation?
Man, there is actually. I just did one day before yesterday. So, there's not a real easy. Well, they probably don't have the content chopped up. But in the course, when you go through the coursework, there is examples of me actually doing a mock listing presentation with the seller, starting at the very beginning, going through each one of these steps, and getting pushed back and people being difficult, all that kind of stuff. So there's some mock walkthroughs of it in the training, just as part of that training. But I don't have one on YouTube that I could just send a link to. Unfortunately, I wish I would have done that, but I just haven't done it. So sorry about that.
Got it. And on one more question, how do you connect with everyone, whoever is present at the listing presentation, especially if there is somebody who doesn't want to disclose all the motivation why they're selling? They just want to get to the price and to what you're going to do for them, but they don't really want to open up. How do you go about it?
Yeah, great point. So I lean heavily on, and there definitely are situations where people don't really reveal. I call it the hard questions. And so when I get into the presentation, I go back to the reason why I ask these hard questions. I ask them why they're selling. I ask them what experience they've had, in the past before with selling, and what happens if the home doesn't sell. So I ask some pretty hard questions. Some people are uncomfortable. I have to know what your reason for selling. The only time somebody ever got by that didn't tell me that was, I found out later that the guy had, the husband had cancer, and they were trying to get moved to where they were going because they wanted, before he died, to be able to be home with family. And so, I there was something I sensed that I didn't push, but I'm normally pretty persistent in trying to understand the reason for moving. Right? If I understand the reason for moving, I'm going to be a lot more valuable to you. And I'll just tell them that when I say. That's why before I sit down and after they tell me what their reason for selling is I'm telling them, based on everything you've told me, I'm going to tell, or I say, Mr. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Are you guys okay with that? All right. And so if I don't have that motivation, man, I don't feel comfortable that I can advise it properly. And so I'm going to be a little bit pushier, and I might even say, listen, guys. I mean, I understand if there's some reason that you maybe don't want to tell me what the reason for selling is, or where you're moving to, or any of that stuff. But in order for me to do the best job in advising you, which is the only reason I'm here, the more information you give me, the more value I can add to the process. So, I need to know a little bit more of a reason why you're trying, what the goal is here, and what are you going to do if it doesn't sell. And in most cases, what I've found is that people that don't want to tell me don't have a real motivation, right? And I'll go so far as to even, if people tell me, well, we're gonna cash this out and we're gonna invest it into something, Look, okay, well, what are you gonna invest it in? Because I'm gonna do the time value of money if it doesn't sell, right? Like I will take people all the way to time value of money of an investment you didn't make, and do that math and show them why they need to price it right if I have to, right? Like they're giving you ammunition, so I'm gonna try to find what it is that they're motivated to do. That's a positive thing. Hey, we're gonna cash it and put it into another investment. Oh, cool, man. Tell me more about that investment. What's that look like? Well, this is what it is. Oh, that sounds like a great investment. Well, what do you expect it to do? Well, we think this much percent, whatever. Oh, that's a lot. So now a little bit later, whenever I'm saying, hey, remember when we talked about price? Remember when you told me investment you guys want to make, right? Big deal, right? You're excited about that. You guys want to open this winery, whatever it is. And you're expecting this to do really well. Well, if for every month that you're not open in business doing that thing or with that investment, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars, isn't it? Right. Say, and we're going to talk about 10 grand, and that's what's going to keep us from selling the house. I don't think so. I said, if I were you, what I would do, price it here, right? Like use that information the best you can. If they're not giving it to you, it's almost certain that they're not really as motivated. Or it's something really private. That's just been my experience.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Jay,
I have a question.
I didn't anticipate that. All right.
All right.
I just wanted to ask, it seemed like in the beginning of your presentation to the sellers, you said something about, I can assure you this house will sell. How did you word that? Because you can't really promise that.
Yeah.
But it seemed
yes.
like you kind of made a statement saying you would sell it by a certain date.
Nope. I said, this is what I say. So based on everything you guys have told me, there's no question that I can get this home sold by July 1st, so you can get to Houston to see those grandbabies. And I'd like to show you how we're going to do that. Is that okay? And so I'm 100% confident in every situation that I can get a house sold in 90 days. Now, they might need to replace the countertops. They might need to replace the decking on the porch. They might need to do some lifestyle upgrades. They might need to be priced and positioned correctly. They might need to move out of the house and stage it. There is a whole lot of things that I might tell them to do, but I'm confident in my ability to give them the advice that's necessary for them to get that home sold and they can get to Houston. Whether they're going to listen to it or not, or they have the financial budget to do what's necessary, I don't control that. But I do know that I have absolute supreme confidence in my ability to articulate what needs to happen for them to accomplish the goal. That's all I'm saying. that's going to be what they hear, because I'm going to continue to set the expectations throughout the entire conversation. When we get to the end of the presentation, I let people know when we're talking price that what we're testing is not the marketing that we've used to sell this home. We're not testing the marketing. We're testing the price of your home in the current marketplace. And I just want you to understand that's what we're testing, because the marketing we do has been proven to sell thousands of homes across the country. Same system top agents from every market in the country are using to sell homes. The same system we use. There's no question that the marketing is going to work. What we're testing is the price of your home in the market. And I want them to know that, because when we talk, we're going to talk every 30 days. We're going to evaluate the market. If the market's shifting, we're going to talk every 2 weeks. And we're going to look at everything that went active, everything that went pending, everything that sold and closed. And we're going to review those every 30 days. It's going to be built into the calendar ahead of time. And that's going to be when I speak to them. And that's when I'm going to go over what the advice is. And at that point, if we're not priced and positioned correctly, then we're going to have an opportunity to make an adjustment or have a decision what we want to do. And so that's my I very much want to be in the position of strength in the conversation. So I use this language, the language patterns I use to build supreme confidence in me and my ability to get the job done, regardless of what I'm going to have to tell them. I might have already walked through the house and said, oh my gosh, I've done it before too. You know what I'm saying? But I still don't have a question. There's no question. I want them to know and believe in their heart and soul that this guy can get the job done. If given the opportunity, I want them to believe that. And so that's the reason I say it that with that confirming, is just for that reason. So again, you're not promising it's going to sell if they don't listen to you, but if they listen to you, I believe that, that they'll get the job done. We'll get the job done, whatever.
Okay. So they kind of know it's a maybe. not written.
Right.
It's not written in the contract. You're not promising to sell it. You're going to do. If they do everything you say, then you believe that you can truly sell it in 90 days.
Right. Yep.
Right. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey Jay, how are agents, I don't know if it's like that in your state, but in our state, we're in shelter mode, so we can't do any real estate activities like showing houses or meeting clients or sellers and things like that, unless it's remote virtually. So do you have agents, I guess, on your team or just wherever, who are doing this virtually, getting listings?
Yeah. So the cool thing about our campus here and everything we've been doing is we can still do a lot of what we do virtually. So these conversations that I have with a client, I could have a listing appointment with someone and do it virtually, and walk them through the process. It wouldn't be difficult for me to do that. So I think the important thing now to be doing is to be having conversations, let people know you're there for them, kind of understand, their time and motivation based upon what's going on, and be willing to, show homes virtually and put together a list virtually that you can show based on their criteria. And if you have somebody that's interested in selling, let them know that you have a virtual process to go through, how to, what we do to get homes sold, and that, there's still buyers out there buying in some markets. Now in your market, if you're on lockdown, it's probably going to really slow down for a little bit. Again, the expectation is that's coming up, in 30 days. So, just still be doing the work, put your head down. Don't put your head in the sand. Do the work as much as you can do. Right. And so if you're on lockdown and can't show property, some states are, some states aren't. And some people are selling houses, or contracts are coming in still. So, it's interesting. How long is that going to be for over the next 30 days, and what's this pandemic look like? But I would say continue to do the work and act as if, because once we are out of lockdown, there will be houses selling, and there will be buyers buying, and there will be motivated sellers, and there will be people that are that decide to wait a little while. But there will be real estate transactions, and so don't think that this lull that we're in right now is something that we are going to be in forever, because that's not going to be the case. Even in the worst market ever, houses still sell. So just be prepared, do the work, stay positive, and be a human being more than anything to people.
I also think, Jay, that if we do everything you just said, as well as just do this presentation virtually through Skype, FaceTime, or Zoom meetings, we not only sharpen the soul with our skill set, but we know what mistakes not to make and what to make, and we fail forward, to success. Can only gain and not lose if you practice, just like in any industry. You just got to go all. Yeah.
Yep. Momentum is moving forward. I can tell you that's it's so true. The pendulum of success doesn't swing. The pendulum of success doesn't swing first to success. It swings first to failure and then back to success. Then the more failure, the more success. The more failure, the more success. And that's been true my entire business career. You're to push forward, but that momentum of moving forward, fall down, get back up, keep moving forward is going to get you to your goal faster than sitting and waiting and not taking action. So, yeah, great point.
Jay, quick question.
So, yeah, go ahead.
A couple things. Can you give us your email address? Also, when you're talking about your online course, were you talking about the coaching or the university? Because I'm seeing both.
Yeah, so the university, so there's coaching is one-on-one. That's completely separate. It includes all the training. Everything we do pretty much includes all the training because it's foundational to everything that we do. So the university, I'm not 100% sure exactly what you're looking at there, but that's an inner circle community where a lot of this content lives, and you can go through the training modules and all that kind of stuff. So it would do the trick. But I would probably say opt in to talk to somebody just to get clarity on what it is you want and make sure that that's what it is would be a worthy conversation.
So what was the $197 that you were talking about?
Yeah, so I definitely should have thrown numbers out there because I haven't paid attention to. I don't. So this company runs with or without me, and so John and the team that runs the coaching and training side of the company, they could make changes in the last 30 days that I would not be aware of. And so we typically for EXP agents that come to our physical boot camp that are EXP agents, we offer that at $497. That's for 3 days. To both the buy side and the sell side. And that's typically what we charge for that boot camp. If you just bought the materials, it used to be priced at $197 if you came to a boot camp. So you could just buy the materials if you wanted to. So yeah, I don't know for sure. That's why I would say talk to them. They'll tell you. I don't, unfortunately, I'm like the worst salesman. I'm not trying to sell anything here today. So I apologize for that, but I can tell you this, what we have is good stuff and what we do works. I'm just not actively involved in it. I'm very much involved in EXP and just here to add value here today.
Hey Jay, I really was impressed with your presentation. I was just wanting to know, and this maybe you can't even answer this now today, but how in the world do you get 3 to 5 listing appointments per week?
Yeah, that's so one of the companies that we started was a company that did radio and television for real estate agents, ultimately all across the country. It was called Radio and Television Experts, and the guy that I started that company with was Matt Wagner. And in my little town in Lawton, I became, I had you missed the first part, but 12% market share, 14%, somewhere in that range. So I did a tremendous amount of business, 500 plus deals a year, and we did a lot of marketing with celebrity endorsements. And so celebrity endorsement and radio would be like the morning show of a radio station has an audience of people that trust them and love them. That's why they get up every day, listen to the same morning show. Well, when you're on that radio show at the same time every day, maybe there's 54,000 listeners in reach. There's 14,000 listeners that listen every day. And at the same time, at 750, because they're in traffic or whatever. And so we did really well with marketing and using celebrity endorsements and creating inbound people calling to list their house with us. We did it through marketing. And so these are all the same principles I taught a little bit of. You may not have caught much of that, but the principles behind all that we've been teaching and helping agents do for years. And so that's really the big difference of what we do is we have an expertise around leveraging any media, especially Facebook today, to get positioning where people see and have enough exposure to you over a short enough period of time that when they think of real estate, they can't think of anything but you first. And so that's when you win the game of marketing, is when in the mind of the consumer, they think of you first or second. Second's not bad. There is no third place. And so, but in whatever market you're in, it could be a neighborhood, it could be an affinity group, golf course zones, it could be just your sphere of influence or your database of past clients. But in any of those niches that you want to be you want to become the number one person in their mind when the topic of real estate comes out. And the way you do that is through exposure. And the best way to do that is through professionally relevant content, also celebrity endorsement or third-party endorsement, which is why we created NAEA. NAEA saying that you're a certified home selling advisor is better than you saying how great you are. And so when we create all the tools that we create, everything is you're leveraging someone else saying that you're great as opposed to you having to say you're great. So it all just works together. Essentially, the principle of what I'm saying is exposure. The number of times someone needs to see a message from you before they're even going to remember you or potentially think of you at all is 22 times. Most people's marketing efforts fail because they didn't have a clear call to action. There's confusing things. I see billboards all the time that the names of the agent aren't even on there. So people don't even know what to Google. They don't call a number on a billboard and they don't go type in a URL. When was the last time you went and typed in the exact URL? You go type what you remember, right? So like understanding how all that kind of works together and knowing what your personal brand is and making sure that that's what is prevalent everywhere. And then when someone Googles you, what comes up is what you want to come up, and it needs to be relevant to what they thought they just saw, which was sell my house or whatever the case may be. So all of this stuff works together. It's just we've got a lot of experience in it because we ran big successful teams, and then we coached literally thousands of teams. And if you interviewed the top agent and the top 10 agents in every market in the US, probably 3 or 4 of them, in some cases more, were clients of ours. So like we just have a history of doing this and helping people break through the barrier of learning how to acquire a customer through marketing. But we had to build a foundation around it, and that's what this is.
Thank you. Is that part of your coaching?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It is part of the coaching. Yep.
Okay, the celebrity thing is part of the coaching, marketing stuff? It's not the same. It's not the same. No, like Barbara Corcoran endorsements is not the same as what coaching is. So like that's a totally different company that does a totally different thing. And it's filled every market, and not every market, but probably every market has an agent. And it's exclusive. So I can't really do a lot there, but same principles apply to others. So guys, I'll answer 2 more questions. My wife is telling me I've got to put steaks on, so apparently I'm cooking tonight. So, which is awesome.
Thank you.
And yeah, reach out to me. Email. Yes, somebody asked for my email, and I didn't give it to you. I'll type it in here. It's j@jkinder.com.
Wait, are you going to send us the slides, Jay?
Yeah, I'm going to send them to them. I don't know how to turn this keynote. Let me see if before I do this, let me see if it.
And you say this is going to be recorded in the University Library series?
That's correct.
Thank you.
I just typed in this and it didn't. There it goes. J@jkinder. Tried to turn this into a PDF and record it. Hang on, buddy.
Thank you for everything, Jay. Have a good night. Enjoy your stay.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. You guys stay safe too. I am going to upload the slides here, so I think I just exported it to a folder that I'm not even aware of where it is, but I got it going to my desktop here. So a couple minutes here, and I'll answer a couple more questions if you got them while we're waiting here too.
Yeah, Jay, I had a few. Once you've secured a listing, got everything done, got all the paperwork, everything done, signed, what are the first 3 to 5 things that you're going to do first to effectively market or get the word out or try to get it moved as quickly as possible?
Good question. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do everything I promised the seller I was going to do. So I know that's not probably the answer you're looking for, but there's a process that we go through in terms of professional photography, pre-inspection, and professional staging, and all of those things, is I'm going to get the house ready for the market. That's the first thing we're going to do. From there, I sure wish this thing would just export to the right place so I could just share it with you guys. See it here on the desktop. Try something real quick. Give me a second to think and search this thing real quick. Aha, found it. I am a genius. No idea where that was, but I found it. So here we go. So please let me just add that in this little box. No, that doesn't work. So how would I upload? Does browser computer?
To the right of the smiley face, yeah, there's the upload. Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, so there it is. You'll get it in a PDF here. Boom. Done. All right, cool. Upload error. Too large courses. All right. So I don't know if I can compress that or something, but yeah, we'll keep going. So,
or you can put it in a Google Drive. If you put it in your drive, you can share the.
Yeah, let's do that. Either way, yeah, ask away questions if you want there. I'm just uploading this into this now.
How many years of experience do you have, Jay? And what companies did you come from?
So I've been licensed since 1997. What is that? 23 years.
Wow.
Yeah, been doing it a long time. And was Coldwell Banker for 10 years. Was number 2 in the world for them for a number of years. Never was number 1. Still mad about that. But then went independent and stopped focusing on trying to be number 1 in the world and focused on making money and profitability. And then we built a brokerage in Dallas in 2016. And the first year with 10 agents, 10 ISAs to 272 transactions or 268, somewhere in there. And that was a very that part of the business. And then we saw EXP and we said,